Hello and welcome to Craft with Sarah and day 11 of the card making countdown, where I'm sharing a brand new card making idea with you every day for 14 days. Today's project has a little magic touch. I'll show you how to make these fun magic colour cards. The front of the card shows a black and white image, but when the tab at the top is pulled, ta-da! It reveals the colour magically appearing underneath and a hidden message along the top. This version of the card uses printable acetate in order to make the effect. But if you don't have any of that, or if you don't even have a colour printer at all, you can also do the same thing from adhesive vinyl and colouring pens as I've done on this version of the card. Or you could skip the vinyl and use stamps from your craft collection instead to do the same type of card. I'll show you how to do all of those versions in this video, including how to choose your own pictures to go in your magic colour card. Let's get started. This project is part of the 2026 Card Making Countdown. Download the cut files for free for the first 24 hours after this video goes live using the links in the video description or by visiting craftwithsarah.com/cards26. After 24 hours, the cut files for this project can be purchased from craftwithsarah.com/cards26 files. Or get the entire card making countdown plus loads of extra bonus files from craftwithsarah.com/cards26 bundle. The download comes in a zip folder. You need to unzip this before uploading the SVG files into your cutting machine software. For instructions on how to do this, visit craftwithsarah.com/help and choose Cricut, Silhouette or Scan and Cut. Within there are dedicated help guides on topics such as how to upload SVGs, how to modify them to make custom projects, framing tips, and how to cut cardstock with your type of machine. If you have any questions, email hello@craftwithsarah.com. Now, on with today's project. There are several different ways that you can make this card depending on what materials you've got. I used printable acetate for this version. So the front bit here, these butterflies, are printed onto printable acetate. It's important if you're doing this version that it is specifically printable acetate, because if you use regular acetate, you'll probably find that your ink will never ever dry on it and it will always smudge. This is the printable acetate I've used. It's designed for those overhead projectors that you used to get in schools, and it worked really, really nicely. But there are lots of different brands of a similar thing. And then for this version, my one on the inside is printed onto regular photo paper with a colour printer. So it's the acetate on the front and then a printed bit of photo paper underneath. If you don't have printable acetate or if you don't have a printer, you can still make this card. Here's an alternate that doesn't require any kind of printing. So for this one, I've cut the butterflies on the front from adhesive vinyl in black, and I've stuck them onto regular acetate. If you don't have acetate, you could use the cover from an old Cricut mat. That would work well for this kind of project. Just make sure it's not too creased, otherwise it might not look so good. And then the inside, I cut a second copy of all my butterflies and hearts from the adhesive vinyl and stuck that onto a piece of regular white cardstock and then coloured it in with alcohol markers. So this one doesn't need a printer at all, but you can still make the card. And I used peel-off stickers for my happy birthday message at the top, which I stuck on incredibly not straight, but never mind. So there you go, that's two separate options. A third option, if you don't have any adhesive vinyl, but you do have rubber stamps, is you could use stamps to make your pictures instead. And then you would stamp onto regular cardstock for the back, which you would colour in. And then you would still need some acetate that can hold your stamping ink without smudging to go on the front. The instructions for setting up the project in Design Space are a little bit different depending on if you're doing the printable version or the adhesive vinyl or stamping version, but we'll go through both of those as part of this video. This is what the magic colour card looks like when it's loaded into Cricut Design Space. First up, let's check the size. Click the design and it should load in at 21 by 15 inches. Click size and mine does match that, but if yours doesn't, change it to match. 21 inches wide and 15 inches tall. That's the size of the whole design with all those pieces out separate. The finished card will be 5 by 7 inches. Click the design and ungroup the layers with the ungroup button at the top of the layers panel. Click into the first layer, which is that green size box, and delete it with a trash can icon, as we won't need that again. There are a fair few steps we need to do to get this ready in Design Space, and how we do it will depend on the type of materials that you're going to be using, whether you're going for the printable acetate version or if you're going to be cutting your pictures from vinyl or doing some stamping, and if you'll be printing your coloured versions with a colour printer or if you're doing that with pens or some other kind of material. To start with though, let's do the bits that are the same no matter what type of material you're using for the pictures. This is the front of the card. I like to cut this from pattern paper, but you can do solid cardstock if you prefer. To remind myself that I need to do this from my pattern paper, I'll make it a bright green that will be different from anything else in the design. We've got two bits here. They're one on top of the other, but you can see them in the layers panel, and these both load in as orange. These will be cut from solid coloured cardstock that matches in with your coloured paper. It's what makes the top of the tab to pull it to reveal the magic colour section. My pattern paper that I'm using is a kind of dusky teal colour, so I want these bits to be cardstock in that matching colour. This rectangle with the line down the middle is the main base card. Find it in the layers panel and open the group by clicking the chevron icon next to it, then click the solid vertical line. Go into the operations drop down and change it to score. Then click to select that whole mini group and press attach. Attach is what tells the Cricut to do that scoring in that exact piece. I'm going to move this piece here and then move all these down and add myself a note. You don't have to do this, but it can help you remember which bits are which, especially if you're not going to be cutting this out straight away. So these bits will be cut from white cardstock. I'll change that to a writing layer, and then under the operations drop down, change it to a guide. Guide layers don't get cut out, you can just see them on the screen. So when I load this project, I'll know that this is for my white cardstock. You could also add yourself a reminder that this one is patterned paper. And then we can separate this out to do similar for that once we've done the designs. Alright, looking at the designs then, I'm going to use the butterflies I included with the template, but you can put any picture that you want in the middle of your design. This section here is made up of several different layers all on top of each other in the layers panel. If we hide them one at a time until we get them all gone, then we can see what's there. So it starts with one of the pull tabs. This one goes on the inside of the tab. Then there's a green shape, then a blue one which has an extra little tab along the bottom, and then we've got that pull tab for the front, and then these red bits. These are intended to be guides to make sure when you're putting your pictures onto the design, they don't go anywhere where it won't be visible on the finished card. You can either keep them as red, or you can change them to guide layers. I just missed that. You can change it to a guide layer to make it into a pink outline instead. The blue piece is the bit that will be cut from acetate. Either your printable acetate, if you'll be printing the pictures directly, or any kind of regular acetate if you'll be adding your pictures on with vinyl or if you're stamping them. Okay, so let's move our butterflies over onto the template. I'm going to make sure that they all stay within that guide. You could also change the blue layer to a guide if you want to, and hide the green one for now, if that makes it a bit easier to see what you're doing. So whatever picture you're adding needs to stay inside the lines of this section here. At this point, you want everything to just be a solid colour, ideally black because it shows up the best. No colour at this point. Okay, so I'm happy with that. That will show up nicely, and it's all stayed constrained within that shape. If you're doing a stamping design, you wouldn't need to add these on. You would just use it empty so that you can add your pictures later on. But if you're doing that, I'll show you how you can make a guide out of these pieces that will cut from cardstock. So rather than doing it on the screen like I've done it now, you'll be able to have a bit of card that will go over to show you where to stamp when it's all done. This rectangle here is where you can put a hidden message that is only revealed when the card is opened. To do that, you can do pictures or text. I'm going to do text. Let's go for "You're the best" and change it back to a regular font. And let's see. There's a font I really like called BFC Foxy. I'll go for that one. As this will be printed, it doesn't need to be any particular kind of font. If you're cutting it from vinyl, then you will probably want to choose a thicker font. This one's quite thick, so this would be fine. That's easier to read. And put that in there. Okay, so this would be the front done. Now I can select the text, press Shift and choose my butterflies. You would select whatever pictures you've put in there and group them. Then we need to make a copy in exactly the same place, and this is really important. It has to be in the same place because otherwise, when you pull out the top, your pictures won't line up and it won't look right. To duplicate in exactly the same place, hover your mouse over where the group is, press Alt on a Windows keyboard or Option on a Mac, and then your mouse cursor will change to get a little plus symbol. Click with your mouse, and then that will make a copy in exactly the same place. You see, I've now got two. Hide one of them, and also hide your acetate layer. You may wish to rename it by double-clicking in the Layers panel to remind you that that is that, and turn on the one underneath, which is the one that shows in green by default. At this point, I'm just going to turn everything back on and make a copy so that in a minute I can show you how you would do it differently if you are doing this with the vinyl. So let's just call that vinyl for now, because this is the point where it changes a little bit depending on if you're using the printable acetate or if you're doing it with vinyl and colouring in your pictures. So for this one, hide the top group of the butterflies, and we've got the one underneath. And then you can find your guide layer, and if you want to add a background, you can change that back to a basic cut and give it a colour. Then eventually this will be merged on with your pictures you've put inside. Let's go for a nice blue like a sky. Okay, then we can ungroup the butterflies and the text. Now this will be the inside, so this one we want them all to be nice and colourful. To add colour to the pictures, first duplicate one in place, click the bottom one and change the colour. Let's go for nice bright pink. Click into contour and then hide all contours and apply. That will fill in all the gaps in that picture so that it ends up being coloured in. So that's what I've got underneath, and then it will print my black on top. You can layer this and do multiple colours. So for instance, I could duplicate that one in place, change the one underneath to a yellow, go into contour, and this time just choose some of the pictures, or the holes rather, to fill in, and leave some empty and press apply. That's filled those in with yellow, and then we can duplicate the yellow one in place. Click down to the bottom layer, change the colour to something different, then go into contour, hide all contours and apply, and that's filled all of those in with purple, then it's yellow, then it's the black. We'll do that again to show one more time on the bottom one. Duplicate it once, and then let's go for red on this one, and I'll fill in all these little holes. Ooh. If you accidentally click the outline like I just did, click it again in the list down the right hand side. Actually, I'm going to do just those two, I think. And then these little bits. And apply. So they're now showing in red. I can duplicate my red butterfly in place. Make this one orange. And then contour, hide all contours and apply. Show them again, and now I've got my 3 colours. You're not just limited to 3, you can do that as many times as you want to build up as many layers as you want. I think I want a little bit of a kind of brighter blue for my sky. That's better. In order to make it so that we can see the text with a bit of colour around, we'll use the offset tool. I probably should have made my text a little bit smaller on the first stage, as I haven't left a lot of space to add the outline to it, but I think it will still be okay. We'll go into effects and offset, and this will make a border, so mine will be fairly thin so that it still shows up inside that rectangle, and press apply. And then change the colour to something from your design. And then for this one, I'm going to delete the top text and just have the outline. You could do the same on your pictures if you want and get rid of the black outline, because it will show the black from the front, but I like to keep that on. I think it looks a little bit more bold when it shows it both on the front and on the inside, but for the text, this works best. At this point, we can hide or move the 2 pull tabs. This one we can move out with arrow keys on the keyboard as it's at the bottom. Put them down here and then add a little note to remind us what we're doing with them. Those are teal cardstock. And then zoom back in on this shape. So this shape that loads into the design as green will be cut from photo paper. So we need to change it to white, otherwise it will print it in green and we don't want to see it in green. You can hide the rectangle guide along there, and if you've got your acetate one on, hide that too. So now all that we should be seeing is what was originally that green shape that we've now changed to white, and any parts we want to appear on the coloured section. Drag a box around all of those and press flatten. That changes it into a print and cut image. It looks a bit weird because it gets rid of all of the black lines around everything, so it sort of feels like it's not worked, but it has. If you move it slightly over something that's got colour, you can see it's still got all those outer edges, you just can't see them very well. So we can move that over here and then add a note that will be done from photo paper. Then turn on the other bits we had left. Oops, that was my vinyl copy. I don't need that one. I need my acetate guide and all of the pictures. That will be done on the printable acetate. Once again, change the outside shape back to a basic cut and make it white. And then we'll select the basic shape and all the pictures and flatten. And then add a little note that reminds us that that will be done from printable acetate. If you want to see all of the bits a little better, you can change the background colour of Design Space by using this background colour here and add it maybe as grey, and then you can see your outlines again, just for a little bit of reassurance that everything is how it is supposed to be. So if you're doing the printable acetate version, you are now ready to go. You've got your main bit of paper to cut from pattern paper, this bit which will be done from photo paper, this bit from printable acetate, all of these bits from white cardstock, and these 2 tabs to do from a coloured cardstock that matches your pattern paper. You might find when you're going through the process that the Cricut tries to do both of these on the same sheet of paper. If it thinks they'll fit, it will put them on the same one because it doesn't understand, and there's no way to tell it that we're using two different materials for these. One is photo paper and one printable acetate. So if you press make and it has both of these on the same sheet, click cancel on the bottom right and then hide one of them, start it again and go through the whole process and get all of that printed and cut out. Then come back to your main project, turn that back on, hide that one, and then click make again and then just do the print and cut sheet, which would be this one, and load your acetate that time. That's a little trick to make sure you can get it on the two different types of paper. Okay, let's also now take a look at this version for if you're using adhesive vinyl or if you want to do stamping for your pictures. Let's ungroup this. So we're back at this point where we'd added all the pictures on and the text. You can move these two bits out the way. And we want to make ourselves a frame template so that when we're sticking this together, we know where to put this so that it will line up on the front and back. Duplicate the green bit in place and we'll make it a different colour so we can see. And then select the rectangle and the kind of wavy edge square, which are our guide layers, and change them back to basic cut. Then select both of them and the new layer you've got here and press combine and subtract. That will cut those shapes out. And then we'll change this to white, and that can go back down in the cut from white section. So we won't actually use this on the card, it won't be stuck together, but it means that when we're lining up all that vinyl, we'll know exactly where to put it. Then for this one, the green piece is the bit that goes inside the card. So I'll change that back to white. And this time we're not attaching anything to it because we'll be cutting the butterflies from vinyl. So it can move down to our cut from white section. And then the acetate bit, we can change that bit to basic cut and I'll keep it in blue. And that can move over because we're not joining anything to it. This will be cut separately from vinyl. Because I hate weeding vinyl and I find it really, really hard, I'm not going to cut my hidden message from vinyl. I'll do that with some peel-off stickers after it's all put together. So I'm going to hide that and just have the butterflies. At this point, if you don't already have two copies of your shapes, duplicate one in place and then select the first one and attach. You only need to do this if you've got more than one picture. If you've only got one, you don't need to attach it. Press attach and then do the same on the other one. Attach keeps those butterflies all at the same arrangement. So when it cuts from vinyl, they'll stay looking in this position. And then that would be everything you need if you're doing the other version. So the things that are different from the original is you'll have your shapes separately rather than flattened onto the printable versions. Your acetate cuts all on its own. You've got the bit here that is cut from cardstock, and we've created an extra guide to use for lining up, again to cut from white cardstock. At this point, save your project and get everything cut out, and then we'll see how to put together both versions of the Magic Colour card. Here are the pieces of my first card where I've used the printable acetate and the photo paper. So here's how my printable acetate looks. It has that slight kind of milky look to it, which is just how the acetate looks. That's fine, you can still see the colours through nicely. And then here's my print then cut layer that has all of the colours on, and that's what will be seen when the tab is lifted up. I've also cut out the vinyl version. So here are my butterflies. I've already weeded the vinyl, which is where you pick away all of the vinyl that you don't need and only leave the bits that you do. I did actually change up the design for this one just to make it a little bit easier to see the difference on the finished card. So before I cut it out, I changed the butterflies a little bit and I added some hearts, but it's the same sort of thing. And this is both the front and the back. I need to cut them out to be separate. You see how all my hearts and butterflies are in the same position on both versions? That's because we attached all the bits in Design Space. And then for this one, I've got my acetate layer just from regular acetate. This isn't printable acetate, so this one is fully see-through. And I've got the white bit of cardstock, which will go inside the card, and this will be the one that I'll do my colouring on. And then the guide that I did, although I filled in the hole for the text because I'll be doing it with peel-off stickers, although actually that wasn't the smartest move. I should have kept the hole on there because now I'm not going to know how to line up my peel-off stickers. So in Design Space, when we did it, I left the rectangle here for the hidden message. You should do that. Don't fill it in like I just did. Okay, right. We're going to start by putting together the original one with the printable acetate. First up, nice and easy, take your base card and fold it down the score line in the middle. I'll be putting my card together with barely art glue, but I also like halal. The reason I like these two glues is they don't bend or wrinkle the card like some glues can do. Select your printed panel with the colours and the acetate. We're going to glue them together, but only add the glue in this top section. We need these two bits to be able to come apart from each other, as that's how it fits in the card. I'm not going right down to the bottom of the tab because the glue will probably smush around a bit, especially because glossy photo paper and acetate are both very sort of shiny and the glue likes to move about. And we'll line this up and be as accurate as you possibly can to get your both sides of it all lined up. And this is how it will look when it comes out of the card. So we want the printable bit of the acetate to line up perfectly with the printable bit in the colour. So like there. That's what it will look like when it comes out. Then we can glue the pull tab on the front as well, and also the one on the back. It takes glue quite a long time to dry on acetate, so you may wish to have a little pause and come back to it when you know it's fully dry to make sure you don't accidentally move anything about, but I'm just going to be really careful and move it around and turn it upside down and stick the matching bit on the back. Okay, that's still looking all lined up. Good. Next up, take your rectangle piece. As I'm doing all white, let's add a sheet of cardstock to my surface so you can see a little bit better what I'm doing. You've got two outline pieces. One of them looks like this, and one of them has slightly thinner edges that have got these tabs on the top. For now, choose the one with the thicker sides and without those tabs, and glue this to one side of this rectangle. Then turn it around. And now we're going to glue on this bit with the tabs. On the one we've just done, we've got the bit that makes up this shape along the bottom. And then we'll be doing the same thing so that the solid bit, again, it goes along the bottom and these little tab bits are at the top. That's what holds the acetate piece in place so that it can't accidentally be pulled out of the card. Then select your picture and pull apart gently the acetate and the bit underneath. The bit underneath, the printed paper bit, will go to the back and the acetate bit slides in the top. You can push it down and you can sort of see at this point how it's going to work. As it's pulled up, you see the bit that's at the behind come and join up to add the colour. Next we'll add the front of the card. Put glue alongside the white bit that you glued around the edge, but do not put glue anywhere else. You don't want to glue your acetate to the card because then it will not move. We're just going on top of that bit around the edge. I'm going to pull that out a little bit just to make sure this glue doesn't smush out and accidentally get stuck anywhere it shouldn't be. And then put this on top. Then I'll wait for that to dry and then turn it round. Actually, I might as well just do it now I've turned it round, but you should wait for it to dry, otherwise it could all dislodge. And then add glue to the tab on the back, so the bit that we stuck around the edge. Again, make sure you don't get any on the bit that moves. And then this will go onto the front of the card. Use the bottom and the sides to line it up. There we are. And then when that's all tucked in, it's a 5x7 inch card, including the size of that tab. And you can pull it out to get that wonderful magic effect. And it won't pull out because of those tabs, so it'll stay nicely in there. And then it'll tucks back in, so you can do it again and again and again. Right, that was the version with the printable acetate. Now let's see how it's a little bit different if you're doing the vinyl or the stamping option. This time I've got the white to go at the back. This was what my coloured photo paper was on the previous card, and my acetate that's plain, and then my guide here. We'll start by doing the back layer. Lay your guide over the top so that it lines up exactly. Then you know that your pictures need to go inside there. So if you're stamping, stamp and make sure it fits inside that gap, or you can use your vinyl. If you've just got one picture, you can pick it up like a sticker and stick it in the middle, but if you've got multiple like me, then you may wish to use some transfer tape. This comes in many different forms, but mine I've got on a big roll. I like this because it isn't very sticky. So for cardstock, that's great, because if your transfer tape is really tacky, you might damage the cardstock underneath when you try and take it off. I'm going to cut a bit of this. If your transfer tape is very sticky, try putting it on your trousers or your sleeves a few times to get some lint on there from your clothes, and that will help de-sticky it a little bit. You could also use masking tape or painter's tape instead of transfer tape, which is a bit more low tack, which can be kinder to your cardstock. So I'm going to do this off of that bit of card, otherwise it's just going to stick to the orange card. And lie that over. Then that should, I've stuck that very well to my work surface. That should pick up the vinyl, which it hasn't. This is why I hate working with vinyl. It never works out for me. Oh, we're getting there on some of them. Okay, I'm going to pause my video and get all this stuck. So the idea is it would end up all stuck to the transfer tape instead of the backer, but I am so unused to vinyl because I use it so rarely that I'm just terrible at it. So you'll probably find this is easier if you do vinyl crafting more often. I'm probably doing it all wrong. I am definitely a cardstock crafter, not vinyl. Alright, oh, actually, is that going to work? Ooh, mostly just that little heart. I thought I was going to have to pause my video and go and get this done, but I think it's going to work. Ooh, nearly, nearly, nearly. Okay, phew, that's done. Right, bring our template back in. Make sure it's all nicely lined up. And then get your butterflies or whatever your picture is so that it will go completely inside that template. I've not done that very evenly in the middle. Try again. And then I just dropped it. That was even less helpful. Okay, it's probably a little bit close to the bottom, but it should be okay. And then peel that back like that. We got there. All right, I can take the template off. Then we can do the acetate one. Line that up on top, and then you can either do the same thing with the transfer tape, or because you can now see the original, it might be easier, which I find easier, to peel off each little bit individually and stick it on top of the acetate. I think this is a little easier for getting it all completely lined up. You're lining it up as accurately as you possibly can because we want it to show looking like it's the same picture when we pull the tab out at the top of the card. You could use washi tape or something to secure your acetate to your work surface so it doesn't move about. If you were stamping, you'd have stamped inside your back sheet, then put the acetate on and then stamp again on the acetate, lining it up. Alright, so I'm going to pause my video and get the rest of my pictures stuck down, and then we'll come back to see the colouring. After you've got all your bits stuck to your acetate, then it's time to colour in the bit on the white. I'm using alcohol markers, but any kind of pen or anything else to add colour is fine. I've done most of mine, and I've gone around the edge of the vinyl as well as just in the middle, so the colour will be a bit more dramatic when it's all opened up. I've just got this one left to do. I'm definitely not very good at colouring in. The nice thing about the vinyl is you've got a little ridge against all of the sides to make sure you don't go out of the lines. There. Alright, that will look lovely. So here's how that will look. So when it comes out the card, it will have all that colour behind it. And when it's just on the front of the card, it will show that. And at this point, it goes together the same as the other card. We'll do it again so you can see it for a second time. So we'll start by adding glue to the top tab on the piece that's got your coloured images on. Stick the acetate down on top. Line it up as accurately as you possibly can. And then add the pull tabs on the front and the back. As with the first one, you should probably wait for it to dry before turning it over, but I am doing it quicker for the sake of the video. Fold your base card in half along the score line. Then I've already done the gluing for this bit, so on one bit of the rectangle you've got the edging with the little tabs coming in from the top and the solid bit along the bottom. And on the other side, you've got the one with the thicker edges. Position it so that you can see the one with the two little tabs. And pull apart the acetate carefully so that the acetate goes into the front bit and the coloured bit is in the back. Put that in straight. Leave it out a little bit. And then get it in the middle. Add glue to the top of that tab bit we put on there. Stick your pattern paper on top. Oh, you know what? I've forgotten to add my hidden message. That's because when I did my template, I filled in the gaps so that I didn't remind myself of it. That's fine. We can do that. Do that now, actually. Here are some peel-off stickers. These say happy birthday. I'll add one along there. If I still had the template and I hadn't filled in my gap, it would be much easier. I need to make sure it doesn't end up being visible. But we'll give it a go. Here it is with my text added. I did not do that very straight. And that then slides in there. And there's our reveal. And it goes back in nicely. All that's left is to add this to the front of the card. Put glue just down those outside tab bits. Then it's our magic colour card with the vinyl version all done to match with the printable acetate one we did at the start of the video. I hope that you enjoyed this video on how to make magic colour cards with your Cricut machine. If you did, please give the video a thumbs up, and I hope to see you tomorrow for day 12 of the card making countdown. Subscribe to my YouTube channel for even more card making and Cricut ideas. But for now, thank you so much for watching. Bye!